What's going on, guys? It's Barry here with the Scryguys, and today we're doing a dino deck. I know you guys have been, hopefully you guys have been following along and checking out the work that we've been doing on the precons with the little budget upgrades, so we wanted to bring you the last piece of the Lost Caverns of precons. Today we're going to be talking about Pantlaza, Sun Favored, 2 and Naya, a legendary creature dinosaur. Whenever it or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may discover X, where X is that creature's toughness. Do this only once each turn. Exile, discover is exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with mana value or less. Cast it without paying its mana cost, or put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So Discover almost sort of feels like a cascade situation, so that's really cool. And then the fact that this only triggers once per turn, meaning you can't abuse it as much as you would hope you could. But definitely let's check out the cards that come into this deck. Talking about some notable reprints. Xenagos, God of Rebels 3, and Gruul, legendary enchantment creature god, indestructible. As long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, it isn't a creature. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is that creature's power. This is going to be buffing up our huge dinosaurs a bunch, hopefully able to trigger some abilities or just deal some real damage. But really nice reprint there. Rhythm of the Wild 1 and Gruul, enchantment creature spells you control can't be countered. Non-token creatures you control have riot, meaning they either come down with a +1/+1 on them, or they come down with haste. This was getting pretty up there. It was like, I think it's like a $5 for an uncommon. So nice little reprint there, especially for this type of deck that wants to hit hard or get bigger and hit hard later. But also the non-counter spell not being able to be countered is a nice thing for this deck, because we want to make sure that these dinos hit the battlefield and are able to attack ASAP, or just our smaller dinosaurs get a little bit bigger. And we have a Chrome as well, which I believe is probably the biggest reprint in this deck, clocking it at about $19. 3 and a white, choose 1. If you control your commander, you when you cast a spell, choose 2 creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, and double strike until end of turn. And if you control your commander, you could also do creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors until end of turn. This is a game finisher for the most part. Definitely needed a reprint. I felt like Chroma's Will wasn't as well received on release for Commander Legends. The first go around, I believe when it first came out, it was this and Jeskai Will that were under $10, and I was like, I can't see that staying that way. And then obviously Jessica's Will first popped off with CEDH players, and then Chroma's Will, I think more for casual players, but it's such a good casual card, and it's just a good card all around, and I was just surprised it took so long to get there. But nice reprint for this deck, especially for this deck, because some creatures we do want getting double strike and just gaining us a whole bunch of life, just giving us a bigger cushion for the later game, if there is a later game. Next we got Chandra's Ignition, which I was surprised was $10. 3 and 2 red sorcery. Target creature control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. Great way to trigger some enrage and enrage mechanics from our dinosaurs, and also just a great way to board sweep if we need that, and maybe also used as a game finisher for some of our larger dinosaurs. Galta, which is not in here for some reason, so I put that in the upgrade section. But being able to deal massive amounts of damage, clearing the board for whoever's left, and possibly killing our opponents is a great way to end the game, and I didn't know it was a much needed reprint. Next we got Descendant's Path, 2 and a green enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card that shares a creature type with a creature you control, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't cast it, put it to the bottom of your library. Just a great way to get some free value. A mini version of Lurking Predators. Lurking Predators obviously is a little bit better, but that is also 6 mana versus this 3, and this deck is chock full of dinosaurs, so I would say you'd at least get a hit, one or like a couple hits before this goes away. But this card was also clocking in at about $8, so really glad people get this reprint. Next we have Apex Altasaur, which is like around $10 at the time of the deck release. I'm pretty sure it'll go down a little bit, but it'll shoot right back up just because it's a pretty solid like not a board removal but creature removal card. 7 and 2 green. When Apex Altasaur enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. It has Enrage. Whenever Apex Altasaur is dealt damage, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So this can go really nuts if you have any way to give it indestructible, you know, like an Abyssin maybe, and then it really just becomes a one-sided board wipe. Definitely needed a reprint. I mean, it's a 8 mana 10/10 with upside, so it's already ahead of the curve. Yeah, just a great, look at it. I think that's supposed to be Galta right next to it. Let's talk about some new cards that come into the deck. We got Bronze Beak Foragers, 3 and a white. It is pretty much a Grasp of Faith on a dinosaur, because when it enters the battlefield, it'll exile one non-land permanent from each creature, or from each player, sorry, until it leaves the battlefield. But what it does to make it better than Grasp of Faith is before it dies, you could actually pay X and a white and it remove the most dangerous thing that got exiled before it gets removed, and all those permanents return back to the battlefield. If you have enough mana to do all of them, that's even sweeter. You know, because you can go turn 4, take out like a Smothering Tithe, Mararu's Wake or something like that. You're usually taking out bigger things, so I would say you're usually using that ability to at least put the most dangerous thing to the bin. But yeah, just a solid piece of removal on a creature. And then obviously this is the type of deck where we want everything that every other card can do on a creature, because we want to be able to trigger Pantlaza's ability at least consistently once per turn, and hopefully that way we can really get into a groove, filling up the board as much as possible and then putting pressure on everybody else. So I think this is a great card. Just you know, Aggressive Faith on a creature is amazing. We got Progenitor's Icon 3. As Progenitor's Icon enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, and then it tap for any mana. But the next spell, it also has another tap ability. The next spell you of the chosen type you cast this turn can be cast as though it has Flash. So it's a really sweet piece for Kindred decks. By the way, I just saw an article that Magic the Gathering is now saying Kindred instead of Typal, because there's this backlash with Typal, and obviously the tribal situation. So and Kindred has already been like a spell type. You know, we had there's a Kindred Boon, Kindred Discovery, and all that stuff. So I like that word, so we'll go with that. But this is, I think this could probably get a little bit more pricier as time goes on, just because a lot of people like to play Kindred decks. You know, those decks are really popular. They're fun. You know, everyone has sort of a pet deck like that. So definitely I could see this going into multiple decks. And I know people have been sort of pushing for more 2 mana rocks. So this is Magic's way of like, well, we'll print one at 3 and then give it more upside. And I think we've seen that as of late, where either they'll, you know, like it's like a Commander Sphere type of situation where you can sacrifice them to draw some cards or something like that. And I think this is a great one to be able to give your spells flash, your Kindred spells flash at a certain turn, at any time. So We have Curious Altasaur, 3 and a green, Vigilance Reach. Whenever a dinosaur you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Wow, that's really awesome. And then in this deck, a lot of dinosaurs that have trample that are gonna get through, and then you're gonna be able to refill your hand. Because sometimes I feel like with Naya decks, you sort of throw your, bust it all down to the friggin' table, and then you're left with nothing else in hand. And this is a great way that's going to give you a consistent way of being able to refill your hand for more answers, for more protection, for more dinosaurs. Let's go. And it's just like it's a more vulnerable Toski, right? Or a more vulnerable Frostbang. So I think it's a great card. Definitely excited to be able to play that. And then we have Sunfrill Imitator, which is another card I'm really excited about. It is 2 and a green creature dinosaur. When it attacks, you may have it become a copy of another target dinosaur you control, except its name is Sunfrill Imitator, and it has this ability, and it's a 3/3. So this is really awesome because we do have, sometimes in this type of deck, you are a lot more heavier on the inside of one mana curve. And so to be able to drop this down, maybe turn 2, turn 3, whatever your curve situation, whatever your ramp situation is, to be able to put this down early, and then maybe coming out with a Tali or a Gishath or something like that. Well, Gishath already. Oh, see, then you get double triggers of Gishath. There's a lot of things in Magic and dinosaurs that, like, once you're able to attack and able to deal combat damage or just attack, that you're going to trigger this, and then people are gonna think like, well, they have a turn. No, they don't, because you got Sunfrill Imitator out there. So I'm super excited to see where this card goes. So super excited about this card. We got Sign of Calamity, 3 and 2 green Myriad. Whenever Sign of Calamity deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. So we have a couple ways to give creatures trample in this deck, and I think this was what it was missing. But it would be really sweet to be able to play this turn 4 or 5, and then attack, take out some soul rings, some great hinges, just a really solid piece of tech, I think. And and you're taking everybody's stuff out, so there's no feel bads because everybody's soul rings is gone. We got From the Rubble, 4 and 2 white enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. At the beginning of your end step, return target creature card of the chosen type from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. This is sweet. It seems like Wizard is now printing cards that do stuff at the end step, because sometimes you'd feel bad. It's like 6 mana. All right, well, I hope it survives until the upkeep so I can get that sweet treasure. No, this says nah. Do it at the end step. Do it the turn you dropped it down. And what's really cool about this is that it's any creature type, so you can put it in any type of Kindred deck. But what's awesome about this is that you could pair it up with a card like Solemnity to make sure that counter never hits on your creature, and so you're just gonna get your creature back for free. If you also do with the Shrine of Resonator, I believe you can go ahead and copy that end step trigger. There's ways to abuse this. At 6 mana, it's a little steep, but the fact that it gives you something at your end step was really cool. And then if you have ways to be able to remove counters on things, I think this is such a good card, and probably going to be one of the more expensive pieces when everything is all said and done. And that art is sweet. I want that weapon that he's holding. We got Wrathful Raptors, 4 in a red, trample. Whenever a dinosaur you control is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target that isn't a dinosaur. I feel like this is a sleeper card for this one, just because it makes blocking so much harder for everybody. Because alright, say people block your dinosaurs and they eat those creatures. Well, now I'm going to redirect all that damage that your creatures dealt to my creatures, and I'm going to take out the rest of the board. So, such a dangerous card. I feel like after a couple games, people will start to be like, alright, I got to remove that Wrathful Raptors. It's way too dangerous to stay out the field. And then we have Wada. I think I'm saying that right. Trainer Prodigy, Naya colors, legendary human warrior, haste. It has an ability, 2 in a green, Tap, target creature you control fights another creature, target creature. This ability costs 2 less to activate if the target two creatures you if it targets 2 creatures you control. Sorry, and then if a creature you control being dealt damage causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So pretty much Triggernomicon. This is really great for decks that have Enrage abilities, or just it's so good as just even as a standalone commander, because you could fill your deck with fat boys, and then and then just have way to just start pinging them all together, and then hopefully the creatures that are you're having fight. Your creatures have triggered abilities when it deals damage to another creature or something, which would be really sweet. I would love to build this deck and see where I could take it. But definitely I would still keep this in too, because we have a fair amount of Enrage abilities, and most of our creatures are pretty fat, so it can probably take out a good amount of what's on the board. Alright, let's look at the upgrades I would put into this deck. One thing that surprised me is that it didn't have cards like Kinjali Caller, 1 white, or a white. Dinosaur spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Sometimes I like these cost reductions for specific decks, especially for something like this, because then it gives you more room to have more mana for different spells. So hopefully for protection spells, maybe for more ramp spells, something like that. And I'm surprised they didn't put that in here. We also have the 4 mana version of it. Knight of the Stampede, 3 in the green. Dinosaur spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. So when you play this turn 5, or like, you know, if you play this turn 2 or 3, you're able to cast your commander for Naya and then have mana to protect that or cast other things. So like I said, I like cost reduction cards. Like the medallions are, I always think, are a little underrated as far as a piece in your deck. But yeah, definitely agree. Definitely 2 great additions for this deck, just because our curve is pretty heavy. It's, you know. And then we have Forerunner of the Empire, 3 in the red, tutor a dinosaur to the top of your deck, and whenever a dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Forerunner deal 1 damage to each creature. So this can kind of go crazy with there's combos for this with the Enrage ability, but also this can use as you could use this as a way to sort of clear the board from small tokens or small creatures. Mana dorks are getting out of the way, get them out, you know. And I'm surprised that they didn't put this in here. I just feel like it's a nice way to smooth these cards are nice ways to smooth out your deck, just to be able to play your new big exciting spells. And definitely these are all worth picking up for the upgrades. Let's see what we have next. We have Karuk's Uprising, 2 and a green enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Creatures you control have trample. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield, draw a card. We have about 20 creatures in this deck that are 4 and above, so you're definitely going to get more card draw, and at a cheap price of around $2. And also it's going to give all of our creatures trample, which as you saw earlier, things like Scion of Calamity are going to need to be able to connect to be able to destroy things and control the board even further. So another great add-in. It's just got reprinted in the Enchanted Tales. They're like $1. Go get those. We got Boros Charm for Boros colors. We need a way to protect our board. This deck is very board dependent because we're dropping creatures. We're dropping creatures and hoping that we can win that way, and we need ways to protect that. This deck didn't give too many ways besides a Chrome as well. They should have reprinted Teferi's Protection for this as well. But no, and also the fact that you can give a creature double strike can be important in some aspects of the deck, especially if you go to our big upgrade sections. You'll see where that comes into play. But yeah, this is mainly for the protection, giving all of our permanents indestructible. Now it's not going to save us from a Cyclonic Rift, but Cyclonic Rift at least gives it back to our hands and not into our graveyards, where sometimes it might be inaccessible for us. And then we have Rising of the Day, just another way to give our creatures haste, because sometimes it's important that our creatures are able to come down and swing right away to make an impact to the game. And plus, I think it's a better fervor. because it gives legendary creatures a bigger buff. Or a buff, you know what I mean? Stroke of Midnight, 2 and a white, instant, destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 1/1 human. A great piece of removal. This is a little bit light on the removal from the precon. It has generous gifts, so why not give it its little brother, because it can't target lands. But yeah, and it just came out from Wazaval Drain, and it's $1.50 surprisingly for a common, so definitely go pick those up now if you don't have them already, and definitely slot those in here. Because sometimes we need to get rid of a pesky planeswalker. That's way too dangerous for the board. We got Creeping Renaissance, 3 and a green. Choose a permanent type. Return all cards of the chosen type from your graveyard, and it has flashback for 7. Again, like I said, we're a very board dependent deck, and it will more than likely get wiped away from a board wipe or two. And so Creeping Renaissance, I like this card a lot. I feel like it's a little slept on. Because it has flashback on it, it gives you a second run at it. If it gets countered the first time, then you have the flashback to hopefully count on. But yeah, you're gonna want to be able to grab those dinosaurs from the graveyard back into your hand, and hopefully end the game somehow that way. But yeah, like I said, I like to name this card Second Life just because it does it again. It gives us another chance. And that we have Galta Primal Hunger. For some reason, it wasn't in the precon, even though it's only like a $2 card now. But you know, you gotta put Galta in this. Come on, man. Hold on. Does he have extra hands? No, that's just his beard. Now, time for the big upgrades. Now this, I am super glad that they reprinted this and didn't like make it into a new card, just because everyone's was like, I want that card, and they did it. They're like, all right, here you go, because it was getting relatively expensive. Gishath Sun's Avatar, 5 and Naya, legendary creature, dinosaur avatar, vigilance, trample, haste. When it deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards from the top of your library, put any number of dinosaur creature cards from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest to the bottom of your library in any random order. 7/6. Now this is one of those cards that you want to give double strike to, so that you're looking at 14 cards. But no, super glad that they reprinted this, and it's now at a more manageable $20. Before, I think when the set got announced, or when it started showing spoilers, it shot up to $40. So definitely worth the pickup right now if you're gonna pick up this precon, just to go ahead and slot that in there. And I have some fun dino stuff going on. We got Trapjaw Tyrant, 3 and 2 white. It has the Enrage ability. Whenever Trapjaw Tyrant is dealt combat or dealt damage, exile target creature an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. Again, this will run perfectly with the Forerunner, the red Forerunner, to be able to trigger these Enrage abilities, or the second Naya commander that's in the deck. I forgot her name already. So for you to be able to somehow deal damage to this, and get rid of creatures is really awesome. It also makes blocking a lot harder for people, because they're like, well, I don't want to block it, and then he's gonna exile something, and so it just makes things a lot more harder for people. And it's still a $10 card, so I put this in the big upgrade section. But yeah, just a great way to control the board if you have a consistent way to ping this for 1 damage here and there to take out pieces on the board. And then for our last one, Hunting Velociraptor, 2 and a red, creature dinosaur from the Jurassic Park thing that's coming out. But as first strike, and it gives dinosaur spells you control have Prowl. So if you're able to, around turn 4 or 5, if you drop this turn on curve, or maybe on turn 2, then you're able to hit something turn 4 or 5, and then you can go ahead and Zakamo for 3 mana, untap all my lands. Oh, let me drop this other card. It's gonna get nasty. And this is, I think, definitely, if you have the budget for it, it's clocking it at about $20 on TCG right now before release. We'll see what it is afterwards. Maybe it'll be a lot lower, but I don't see it that way just because it is a special type of card that's coming out for the set. And so it's still worth the pickup though. I definitely think people would want this in your decks to be able to cast dinosaurs for 3 mana. It's too much of a good deal, because then it could lead into casting this guy for 3 mana. Galta Stampede Tyrant, 5 and 3 green, legendary creature, elder dinosaur, trample. When it enters the battlefield, put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. It is crazy. Definitely, I think this is I think just a great all-around good green card, just because you could, it's not specifically tied to dinosaurs, but for this to be able to cheat in big dinosaurs with this card, it's gonna be nuts. It's clocking in at about $40 though. I think that's gonna, I'm pretty sure that's gonna go down probably to the around maybe like the 25 portion section of the price point. I think that's where it's gonna be at after the dust settles for a little bit. But yeah, definitely worth the pickup for a big upgrade for this deck. Make sure to check down below. I have the arc deck link or the deck list down below. With I have a section where I have cards where I took out, and then the cards I want to put in, and then a section, you know, and then it's a little bit mixed in with the big budget cards that I would love to add to this deck. But definitely tell me what you guys think about this deck. Let me know how you like it. If you guys get it, let me know how fun it is out of the box. I want to hear about that. But make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we really appreciate you guys. Have a good day. Oh wait, before I end this, I do have one theory crafting question I gotta ask for all the judges, or if I have a judge watching this. So this says do this only once each turn. Are you saying that I could put flicker cards in this deck and flicker things at instant speed on other people's turn and then get the discover going? I understand that with the discover though, it's probably gonna have to adhere to timing, but or like it's gonna be held to the timing of the casting cost unless it's an instant or whatever. But if I can flicker things and then kind of just draw cards, because then if you can't cast it, you just put it into your hand. Would that work? Because it doesn't say only on, like, do this only once on your turn. It says do this only once each turn. It doesn't specify whose turn. So let me know. Alright guys.